So today we're making our quesadillas. Quesadillas are a great dish to make at home, and there's lots of different ingredients you can put in your quesadillas. Today we're going to be using spinach and feta. Lovely combination, and it's a really good way to get some lovely greens, healthy greens into our diet. So when we're making our quesadillas, the ingredients you should have on hand are some wrap or tortillas. So we just grab some plain flat wrap from the supermarket. Better to try and get the whole grain or the wholemeal ones if you can. We're also going to be using some grated cheese. So you could use some grated mozzarella cheese, or you could use some painted cheese or grate your own cheese, whatever you've got on hand, really. What's also really important in this dish to make it really tasty is our feta cheese. So the feta cheese, either the Greek or the Danish feta cheese would be fine. The Danish feta cheese is a little bit softer and tends to melt a little bit easier. The Greek feta cheese is much more crumblier, so you can make it sort of more crumbly when you spread that on the quesadilla. So either or is fine. We're also going to be using some spring onions to add a bit of flavour as well. So shallots, spring onions, whatever you call them, a couple of those, and spinach. So I actually picked my spinach from the garden today. You might have a bag of baby spinach. So baby spinach is wonderful because it's lovely, it's tender, and you don't even really need to chop it up at all. You can chop it up if you like. So that works quite well in the quesadillas. So my spinach that I picked from the garden is sort of the small leaves of my spinach plant, so they're kind of like the baby spinach. You can also use silkfish. So people often ask me, well, what's the difference? There's not a lot of difference nutritionally, there's not a lot of difference. It just comes down to how you prepare and cook or use the vegetable. So I like liver meat because it's really, really easy to grow, and it's pretty much available from the garden all year through. So I have a consistent supply of liver meat at home, which I always run out to the garden and add to many of my dishes. So as I was out picking my spinach, I had a little bit of liver meat. I thought, yeah, I'm going to pick you too. And great big leaves. You only need one big leaf, really, for this dish. So either or is fine. And as I mentioned, particularly in Canberra, all of these ingredients are actually really easy to grow, and I'm growing them at the moment in my garden at home. So if you've got a little plot where you can plant some veggies, some spring onion seeds, some silver beet seeds or spinach seeds, you can actually plant those seeds now, and you should start to see them pop up in about 3 or 4 weeks. So it's really exciting for kids to get involved in that. And it just grows so well in Canberra. Right, so with our spring onions, we're going to have 2 spring onions. So chop the ends off, pop them aside, and we're just going to slice those spring onions really finely. You don't want to have big chunks of spring onions in your quesadilla. Everything's sort of going to mix in nice and lovely together. So fairly finely. And I just keep on chopping until we get to the soft sort of grassy ends at the end of the spring onion. If you've grown it yourself, you just keep chopping to the end because it's all lovely and fresh. But if you bought it from the store, it's been sitting in the fridge for a little while, the ends can sometimes get a bit floppy and soft, so I don't tend to use them as much. There's my spring onions ready to go, nice and finely chopped. Okay, and then we're going to get onto our feta cheese. So the recipe there is around 20 grams of feta cheese. So I just sort of chop off a little block. 20 grams, so yeah, it's again, you might have less than that. You don't want to overdo the feta cheese because it can be a bit overwhelming. So you just want enough to do a sprinkle on the quesadilla. So with the feta cheese, 2 things you can do. You can chop it up with a knife, nice and finely, or start chopping it off with a knife, and then crumble it between your fingers like this. This is where the kids can come in and get their hands dirty with the feta cheese. It's a really lovely textural experience for the children, and they're helping you in the kitchen. So if you have any little ones, even if they're in high chairs, or they've got a one of those type of chair that join onto the bench. That's what my children had when they were growing up. They were always in front of me while we were cooking, and I would always give them a little chance to do. And you know, they'll make a mess, that's fine. And they'll put it in their big mouth and they'll taste it and possibly spit it out, but it's quite salty on its own. But that's all part of the food experience. Letting them feel the food, taste the food, and watch how it's being prepared. And they're part of that. And then they might be more interested in wanting to eat the food as well. So I've crumbled up my feta cheese nice and finely. So you can see how it's crumbled up really easily between fingers. Now, with your baby spinach, if you've got the bag of baby spinach and really tiny leaves, you don't really need to chop it up at all. If you've gone out and picked some spinach or bought some larger spinach or silver beet, you will need to chop it up a little bit to make it a little bit finer. And then it can, again, sort of blend in quite nicely with the rest of the ingredients on the quesadilla. So I'm just giving my spinach just a little bit of a chop. So it's smaller. Okay. And there's my spinach. If you've got some silver beet, what I usually do is the actual stem, which is why it's called silver beet, is the silver stem, is quite tough. So you could use that if you're cooking, say, a soup or casserole, you would put that in the casserole. But for this particular dish, we really just want the tender leaves in it. Otherwise, it will be a bit much to have the stem in. So if I'm using silver beet, I usually just cut around the stem like that. So you're left with that stem. Say that for soup, stir fries, casseroles, or whatever. And it's got the nice leafy bit that you can roll up and cut up nice and finely as well. So the silver beet leaf is a little bit tougher than your baby spinach. So cutting it up even more finely helps for it to cook down and wilt within the quesadilla. Okay, so now we're ready to cook our quesadillas. So I'm going to be using the frying pan to start with to show you how you can cook with the frying pan. Not everybody has a toasted sandwich maker. So you can have the frying pan on the stove top or an electric frying pan like I've got today. So the first thing we want to do is I just get out the good old spray oil, give it a bit of a spray. What that's going to do is obviously help, like it's not really going to stick because it's bread on the fry pan, but it's going to help to make the flatbread nice on the outside. So give that a good spray. And keep that quickly, this frying pan, so we can start cooking really quickly. Now I've got my flatbread. So whatever flatbread you have, it's good to use some sort of like the Mexican tortillas are great. You can use like the Lebanese flatbread, but it's a little bit thicker and it might take a little bit longer to cook. So let's start with our flatbread onto the pan. And it doesn't really matter what order you put the ingredients. So we're going to, so we need half of the ingredients in here because what we're doing is we're making 2 quesadillas with this recipe. So you're going to spread evenly spread half of the spring onions, half of sprinkle the feta cheese on top, and then we're going to sprinkle our spinach on top, and it's already starting to sizzle. Mine's sizzling away. And then we're going to get a handful of cheese. I'm going to sprinkle that cheese on top. Don't worry, we'll get a bit of cheese off to the side. I can get that off later. Thank you, Dave. So what I love about this dish is most people love the bread, they love the cheese, and that's what we'll call our bridging food, and it will help them to eat the spinach. And then our second quesadilla, pop that on top. You press it down with your hand. Mine's all ready to go there. Give it a couple of minutes on there. Watch it very closely so that it's not burning, because if you got it up too high, it will burn quite quickly. And it will burn the outside, but it won't melt the cheese on the inside. So then you're left with a bit of a mess. So we want to just keep an eye, and I like to just have a little sticky beak to see what it's like underneath. starting to get brown and crispen up. But I've got more time than I can leave on there. The longer you can leave it on there, the more that heat is going to come through and melt the cheese and cook the spinach. Right. So instead of see, you can easily just flip it a little bit and see that it's brown on one side. I'm pretty happy with that. And what's also really fun with this dish is you can do a little sneaky peek to see if we're melting in there as well. So it's melting okay. I'm going to flip it, and I usually to flip it on the frying pan, you do need to sort of hold it down with your hands. This is where it's something that you're going to need to do. I'm going to carefully and then turn it like that. And we're done. Alright, I just flipped mine again to check. It was starting to get a little bit warm, a little bit brown as you can see. Alright, so it should be nice and heated through now. So you've cooked it on both sides. You can always flip it again if you need to. If you think the other side needs to crispen up a little bit more. And then the other trick is you can just grab it and see that the cheese is melted underneath. And my cheese is beautiful and melted inside. Okay, so I'm going to take it off and chop it up. There we go. And then my cooked quesadilla. And now we're going to get our knife and chop it up into pieces. So I usually just chop it into 8, so in half again, and half again. So one quesadilla will create 8 pieces, sort of like a little pizza slice. And that's great for little fingers as well. That's a really good finger food. If you like, you can cut it into strips or sticks or squares or whatever. You can even get a cookie cutter and cut it into all sorts of shapes to make it fun for the children. And again, this is where the kids can come into it and they can create shapes themselves. So be creative, and food is about enjoyment as well. And anything that's going to help the children, you know, get involved and get excited about these foods is a great thing because it's setting up that wonderful relationship with children. So here's my quesadillas, and then I just pop them on the plate like this, and lunch is served. Actually quite nice cold as well. So if you have a few leftover, pop them in the fridge, and you can eat them cold. I do. Quick snack, easy snack. Sometimes I went through a phase where I would put them in my children's lunchbox as well, so they were quite happy eating them cold as well. So I'll cook them in the morning, let them cool down. I actually put them in the fridge to cool down, and pop them in the lunchbox, and they'll love that. It's just something different for lunch because they do get bigger sandwiches. So yeah, so that's our quesadilla. Now I'm going to show you how I do it on the sandwich maker. But as you can see, I've just got a little one here that's kind of made for pieces of bread, not for big round pieces of flatbread. So what we'll do in this instance is we're just going to use one piece of bread or one piece of flatbread, and we're going to put the ingredients on one side only. So then we will flip it and place it onto the sandwich maker. So this is kind of like a quick quesadilla for one, you could say. So same sort of thing before, so we don't have to rush as much because we are going to be putting this on all at once. So but what we need to do is get some of our other ingredients. So I've got my spring onions. Remember to just do half of the quesadilla, the tortilla. Yeah. And then we're going to, like I said, any way you do it, doesn't matter which goes where or what combination you put in, it's all going to cook together and melt up nicely. So this is where, you know, let the children decide what should we put in next, what would go well next, and give them that ownership, which is fantastic. All right, I've got my fish, I might even put a little bit of silver in there. I'm going to green this one right up because I love my fresh silver there. Okay, and then my cheese. Seem to just always do cheese last. You don't have to. Again, let the children decide what they want to do next. And then is where grown-up needs to probably get in here. Is we're going to fold it over, press it down, and less will fall out when we transfer it to the sandwich maker. Give our sandwich press just a little bit of a spray. There we go. You don't have to do it, but I like it crunchy, makes it crunchy. And ever so carefully, I'm going to place that onto our sandwich prep, already sizzling, and down she goes. So we'll give that a couple of minutes to cook through. So much quicker because it's cooking on both sides, and it's a lovely quick lunch. That's really sizzling now. I don't know if you can hear that. Cheese is falling off the side. Love this, because what you get is the stripes on the quesadilla. Adds a little bit more of a fun value to it. So that's nice and browned, and I can now take this off the pan of the sandwich maker and turn it over, nice and brown. Beautiful. And so there's my easy, quick quesadilla in a sandwich maker. Chop it into 4, and there we have our delicious spinach and cheese quesadilla. And it's pretty cheap as well. So again, you know, looking for those budget conscious foods that are good for us, that are tasty and easy to make. And then some more to share with the family. Thanks again, everybody. And I'm going to go and enjoy my quesadillas in the office with the rest of the team. And yeah, look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.